أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. The ending bit of the verse 228 وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ Wallahu Azizun Hakim. And for them are rights similar to the obligations upon them in accordance with honorable norms, and men have a degree above them, and Allah is Almighty and All-Wise. Now we were to discuss this phrase at the end of the verse, وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ, and men have a degree above them. Now, the commentators have given different views about what is this degree which men have over women. And sometimes, of course, they have come with funny interpretations, and sometimes, of course, with legal interpretations, sometimes with interpretations with regards to creation. Now, I mentioned a few of them. Some have said that this daraja that men have over women is in their creation. They have better intellect, and their faith is deeper, stronger than women, and therefore this daraja is given to them, as Allah mentions, وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. This is very much disputable, actually, that if men are in creation above women or better than women, and saying that because some people are created as men, some as women, the very fact of being male gives men a sort of increased blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is wrong. It's just like what Iblis said about Adam alayhi salam. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ Therefore, أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ. Because I am from fire, he is from clay, I am better than him. And this type of argument, of course, is not something that we can accept. Men and women are very different from each other, and they have different blessings from each other in terms of emotion, thinking, disposition, in terms of what they can actually offer to society. So we cannot say that وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ means that they are better in creation, 1 degree above women in creation. So we put this aside. Some other have said that it is in mirath. Men have more share in inheritance than women, and that's the meaning of daraja. It could be said yes, of course, because they have more share in inheritance. This is a degree above women. However, considering their responsibilities towards providing for the family, again, we cannot say that this is a daraja above women. Some say that it's siyada. It means that they are the ones who would be the leaders in the family. This can be, of course, accepted as a legal daraja, not as a daraja in creation. Yes, Allah has given some rights to men in terms of family relation, in family life, for certain reasons, and this may be a daraja. However, when we come to the context, I will mention what this legal daraja should be. And the funny thing is that some of the scholars, Mughniya reports from Qadi Abi Bakr al-Andalusi that he said that it's beard, because men have beard and women don't have beard. So this is a daraja for men above women. I mean, I mentioned this to say that people have interpreted this based on their outlook and how they see things, the importance of things in this life. Now here, I think in the context we should say that لِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ means that I have given the right of divorce to men and not to women. And this is a daraja, this is a degree. Why? Of course, the wisdom Allah knows about it. People may dispute this in their minds at least, or in their hearts, that why the right of divorce has been given to men, not to women. Although in the following verse, Allah gives a sort of rejoinder for this. But we know that there are certain things in family life. Inside the family, Allah has divided the rights and responsibilities. The way which is, we can suppose, best considering the creation of both men and women. Because women should give birth, because women should look after children, then they are not given the responsibility of earning the bread, for earning bread for the family, and men are given the responsibility to provide for the family. And because of this difference, of course, there are certain decisions which are put in the hands of men and certain decisions put in the hands of women. And because it gives sort of more legal right to husbands in family life compared to the wives, Allah says, لِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. As we have in Surah An-Nisa, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أنفسهم, because they are the providers. Then they have to make certain decisions in the family. Now, this is like any other issue which is very disputable in human societies. I mentioned before, for example, alcohol. It has benefits, it has harms. Should we allow people drink alcohol or we should not? Like hijab, like gambling. Now, these things which are very disputable and people may come up with very different ideas about it, Allah has made a judgment for us. And this is the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I have given these rights to men and these responsibilities, and these rights to women and the responsibilities. We are now seeing in our societies, without any bias, that disregarding these laws have created lots of problems in social life, in family life, because of course it didn't seem very so to speak rational, it's not just, things like that. We have thought in this way, and then we have tried to change it. And when we have changed it, we have come up with certain issues which were not foreseeable before. Some of these issues, like for example, the issue of relationship between men and women, hijab, modesty, in the Western world, and nowadays, of course, in Muslim countries as well, we saw that gradually, for rational things, for very conscientious and just causes, they started to oppose these laws. And then we see they opened the Pandora box that has led to our modern society in which modesty is just a myth, isn't it? So, as Allah says, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وأنفقوا من أنفسهم والصالحات قانتات. And women, let them accept this and let them follow and obey. And this is, of course, a very important matter. However, men should not actually take opportunity out of this to wrong women, certainly. And there are rights, if this is the case, then there are rights given to women to end the marriage, there are rights given to women to oppose husbands if they want to interpret this and practice this wrongly. Now, the following verse, 229, الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. Divorce may be only twice, then either an honorable retention or a kindly release. ولا يحل لكم أن تأخذوا مما آتيتموهن شيئا, and it's not lawful for you to take back anything from what you have given them, إلا أن يخافا ألا يقيما حدود الله, unless the couple fear that they may not maintain Allah's bounds. فإن خفتم ألا يقيما حدود الله, so if you fear they would not maintain Allah's bounds, فلا جناح عليهما فيما افتدت به, there is no sin upon them in what she may give away to secure her release. تلك حدود الله فلا تعتدوها, these are Allah's bounds or boundaries, so do not transgress them. ومن يتعد حدود الله فأولئك هم الظالمون, and whoever transgresses the bounds of Allah, it is they who are the wrongdoers. It's very interesting in the issue of talaq, especially Allah emphasizes many times that تلك حدود الله, these are the boundaries of Allah. Do not transgress. Do not make use of them, or do not misuse them in your own benefit. Especially it's addressed to men, because they are given this daraja. Do not misuse it. Be careful. These are boundaries of Allah. Do not transgress these boundaries. As we see, in majority of the cases when we come to talaq, men are actually misusing these rights, and men are oppressing women because they have such rights, and this is an unfortunate. And as Allah says in the following verse, وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا, do not take these rights and ayat mocked and ridiculed. Do not ridicule them by practicing them wrongly, misusing them, and things like that. Now here, let's come to the details of this verse. الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. Talaq should be not more than twice. And after these two, now you either keep your wives or you leave them for their iddah to finish and marry if they want. Now this is one interpretation. The other interpretation is that or you divorce them for the third time. But it doesn't go with the context of the verse very nicely. So it means after you have given talaq twice, and you have come back to each other, then for either you keep after the second time, either you keep your wife بإحسان, not oppressing, with good terms, of course you have to do it, or إمساك بمعروف, keep them with ma'ruf, in honorable terms, or تسريح بإحسان. تسريح بإحسان means leave them for their iddah to finish. If they want to marry, you should not oppose that, you should not object to that. And unfortunately, we see in many families, especially the families, even if not husband, the families are a sort of haunting force upon women that they should not marry after they are divorced, which of course Allah says, this is not tasrihun bi ihsan. Ihsan means, first of all, if you divorce, to be kind to them, and even if they need help, help them. If they want to marry, you should not oppose or block that. This is tasrihun bi ihsan. At-talaq marratan, twice. Now, in Jahiliyyah, they had talaq, of course. And this raj'ah was there. The iddah and raj'ah was there as well. And there was no limit for that. And it is said that there are, in some riwayat, it is said that there was a man who was misusing that opportunity of raj'ah, returning to the wife, again and again and again, divorcing, coming back, divorcing, coming back, and not letting the wife go and marry. And he said to her that I am not going to let you marry after me. I'm not going to live with you. I'm going to torture you like this. This woman came to the Prophet and complained. And then this verse was revealed, well, whether this riwayah is correct or not, or whether this is made to somehow put this ayah in the context, we don't know. But anyhow, if a man and woman divorce and come back, divorce and come back for 3 times, it means that they cannot live with each other anymore. There's no use, there's no point in that. So after the 3rd talaq, the 3rd divorce, there is no return anymore. Unless, as the verse says, woman goes and marries another man, and just in case that they have a divorce again, then they can go back to each other. This is actually a sort of hindrance for men to be emotional, to want to divorce their wives out of anger, out of emotion, and then they regret, they want to go back, they regret, they want to go back. This, so that this life is not going like that. الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. Here, إمساك بمعروف has been interpreted as حسن المعاشرة, that if the husband wants to go back to his wife, should bear in mind that after this they have to have good relation with each other, with kindness, having a calm and easygoing relation, family. These are the إمساك بمعروف. Now, ولا يحل لكم أن تأخذوا مما آتيتموهن شيئا. And whatever you have given them, in terms of mahr, in terms of gifts, or whatever, it is not halal for you to take back from them. And we see sometimes this happens, of course. It's not permissible at all. Whatever you have given them, as we have in the verse, فَإِنْ آتَيْتُمْ إِحْدَاهُنَّ قِنْطَارًا فَلَا تَأْخُذُوا مِنْهُنَّ شَيْئًا. Even if a sack full of gold you have given them for marriage, it's not allowed for you to take anything back from them, except now, if woman doesn't like to live with the man, if the wife doesn't like to live with the man, there is no problem. If there is an aversion, if there's a disliking on the part of woman, or the man is not treating her well, things like that, إِلَّا أَنْ يَخَافَ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ. Now, again, we encountered this term, hududullah. What are hududullah? Hududullah is a good relation, kindly relation in the family. Now, if there is an aversion, if, for example, they don't like each other, or one is quick-tempered, things, this is actually not keeping hududullah in the family. I think if we focus on these terms in the verses of the Quran, many of the questions that we have in relation to family will be answered. Hududullah are very important. إِلَّا أَنْ يَخَافَ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ. They fear, both of them. Women have an aversion, doesn't like to have relation with the husband. Husband would like to force her, for example, would like to oppress. This is going outside hududullah. And unfortunately, in many of our families, we live outside hududullah. We don't keep hududullah. وَإِنْ إِلَّا أَنْ يَخَافَ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ. Now, however, the right of divorce, I have given it to husband for such certain reason. If there is such a thing, if such a thing happens in family, then فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا فِي مَا افْتَدَتْ بِهِ. Then there is no sin upon them in what she may give to secure her release. This is what is called talaq al-khulu, isn't it? Because the wife has taken mahr. Now she wants to release herself from this bond of marriage. She doesn't want to live with her husband anymore. In this case, Allah says there is no sin upon them in what she gives back. Now, why there's no sin upon them, both wife and husband? Because, wives should not be so quick in breaking this bond of marriage. They have to be patient. However, if it's intolerable for them, then there is no sin upon the wife to say, okay, I don't want my mahr, or I give back my mahr, okay, and you release me from this bond of marriage. Now, previously it says that if you want to divorce a woman, you should not take anything back from her. But if she is actually insisting, and you don't want to divorce, she is insisting, then there is no sin upon you as men. So both of them, فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا فِي مَفْتَدَتْ بِهِ. However, there's an interesting thing here, which I think it should be considered in our fiqh, which is not very much considered nowadays. Of course, the marajah should decide about this. Here it says that if they fear that they cannot keep this bond of marriage, then إِلَّا أَنْ يَخَافَ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ. It says, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ, if you fear. Now this is very interesting. What is the position of other people in this bond of marriage, in the family life? It says, if they, Yahawa, the two, the wife and husband, if they fear that they cannot keep hududullah, then there is no harm that you take something back. If you fear, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ, that they cannot keep this hududullah. They cannot have. Hududullah is a calm, tranquil, nice, pleasant environment in family. This is hududullah. Now, if they cannot keep it, if the wife cannot have tamkeen to the husband is coercing the wife and things like this, or they are tough with each other, then if you fear that, there is no sin upon the two, alayhima fima aftadat bih. What does this mean? It means that, because we say that khulu should be with the consent of the husband. Sometimes women would like to have the khulu, would like to give their mahr and release themselves from marriage, but the husband doesn't agree. He says, no, I don't want, or they want to coerce them, or they just want to torture them for that, putting in a tormenting situation. Here, the address in khiftum is actually addressed to the hakim, to the people, authorities in charge. It means it shouldn't be left to the husband. It shouldn't be left to the husband to decide whether he wants to do the khulu or he doesn't want to do the khulu. You as authorities, you as hakim or shar or whatever, you decide upon that, and the husband should be forced to accept khulu. This is what I understand. Apparently, this was the fatwa of Imam Khomeini alayhi rahmah as well, which is somehow different from the fatwa of all other maraji, who says that no, the husband must agree to khulu. Now, he, in a letter to some of the jurists, when they were discussing about these family rights, he wrote in that letter that yes, of course the wife has the right, as much as I can remember, I may not remember very correctly, and the wife has the right to claim the divorce. And even he wrote in that letter, there are other things that I do not dare to mention in, of course, this traditional society that we have, traditional fiqh that we have. Apparently, he was of the view, I don't want to attribute very definitively to him, but as I understand, he was of the view that if a wife has aversion towards the husband, she has the right to claim divorce in khulu. And the courts nowadays, of course, in Iran, the courts are somehow going according to that ruling, that if a wife goes to the court and asks for divorce, khula, and if the only reason is aversion, nothing else, the husband is not coercing, not beating, not stopping giving sustenance or these things, only for the reason of aversion, apparently the fatwa of Ayatollah Khomeini was this. Of course, this fatwa was not published, it was not mentioned in his Risala or things like that. It was understood from certain words that he had mentioned here and there. Anyhow, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا يُقِيمَا حُدُودَ اللَّهِ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا فِي مَا افْتَدَتْ بِهِ. If there is no sin upon both of them in what she gives to end the marriage. Tilka hududullah. Look, in this one verse, 3 times, hududullah are mentioned. Nothing in no other issue, Allah has emphasized, first of all, on these hudud. It should be done according to ma'ruf. As I said, in this set of verses, 12 times ma'ruf are mentioned. In Surah Talaq, you see that Talaq is mentioned. All the time, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ. This shows that the law is not enough to somehow deal with this issue of family relation. It's more intimate than that. It should be based on fearing God, having conscience, having kindness. And these, when they come together, it makes the family life pleasant. Again, it says, Tilka hududullah. These are the boundaries of Allah. Fala ta'taduha. Now, sometimes we may say that in the modern society, when women are earning bread as well, they are working with men to provide for the family, and many other things which are happening, many other changes in society, in the structure of family, structure of society. Should we go still according to these old rules of talaq, divorce, marriage? It needs huge courage for someone, or daring actually, seeing all these hududullah, to say that, okay, we just abandon all these things. We abandon and we somehow legislate new laws for it based on what we understand to be the good of society. It is really frightening for someone to even think about that, by all these emphasis which we have about hududullah. However, one may say that maybe these hududullah were not being practiced according to justice and conscience. And now we have to rethink whether the hududullah were practiced correctly or not, and how we can interpret these hududullah. Otherwise, going outside this, just discarding وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ, saying that both have the same rights in divorce, for example, or discarding whatever Allah says in terms of for example, khulu and other things, it means that we are absolutely discarding the hukmullah. وَمَنْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ and kafirun, as we have in Surah An'am. Anyhow, وَمَنْ يَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Whoever transgresses the bounds of Allah, it is they who are the wrongdoers. And the following verse says that الطلاق مرتان. فإن طلقها فلا تحل له من بعد حتى تنكح زوجا غيره. Now, we discussed that inshallah in our next session. There's one thing which is left that we have to discuss, and that is these 3 divorces that we have. That divorce is only for 2 times. The 3rd time, if you give divorce, then you cannot go back. In Shia fiqh, it's very clear. You cannot actually have 3 divorces in one session. You say that ante talaq 3 times, and then there is no return anymore. In Sunni fiqh, however, it is accepted by majority or mainstream fuqaha. However, this is not something which was practiced at the time of the Prophet. Here I want to mention something from Tafsir al-Manar by Muhammad Abduh. He says that Ahmad ibn Hanbal reports in his Musnad and Muslim in his Sahih that at the time of the Prophet, these 3 divorces in one go, in one session, was not a practice, and they had separated. And it continued in time of Abu Bakr, and for a few years in the time of the 2nd Caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab. Then Umar changed it. He said that إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ اسْتَعْجَلُوا فِي أَمْرٍ كَانَتْ لَهُمْ فِيهِ عَنَاتٌ فَلَوْ أَمْضَيْنَاهُ عَلَيْهِمْ فَأَمْضَاهُ عَلَيْهِمْ. He said that people somehow are rushing in something in which Allah has given them some respite. If they want to do it, let them do it. Let them do it. And then he says, he reports from Ibn al-Ghayyim that all the fuqaha, early fuqaha, had the consensus that the 3 talaq in one session cannot happen until 3 years after the Khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab. And he actually changed the law and said that let people do this in one session, so it became a norm. Now, of course, all the Sunni fuqaha have the fatwa that 3 divorces can happen in one session. Would it go with the spirit of the verse or not? That's something which we can question. Because the verse says, "At-talaqu marratan fa-imsakum bima'ruf aw tasrihun." At-talaqu marratan means that when you divorce and come back together, then you want to divorce again. However, to say that in one session I say that I divorce you 3 times, then there is no return. This is something, of course, disputable among the Shia and Sunni fuqaha. And the root of it, of course, it was mentioned by Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his Musnad. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alayhi tahirin.
No. Thank you very much indeed, Sheikh. So we can open up the discussion. I think we'll require the ulama to take this further, isn't it? If they want to revisit, as you mentioned, that somebody requires the courage to come up with. So let's start and give the bush to the ulamas, inshallah. Any? Yeah.
Thanks very much, Sheikh. I wanted to ask about mahar and dowry, because it's become accepted in certain Muslim circles to give something at the beginning of the marriage and then a payment at divorce. Mm-hmm. Is this Islamic or is this custom?
It's custom, but it's all based on agreement. Okay, so there's no problem doing that if wife and husband agree about it. However, it's custom. Usually, I think in Iraq and some other Arab countries, otherwise not in other countries, is practiced. Yeah.
Thank you. Any sisters? Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. What happens if they have a joint account at the time of divorce? Now, the women in this country, they work equally. They contribute towards the financial part of it. And if they don't agree, husband and wife, at the time of divorce for the financial matter, what the law says about it?
Whatever the wife has spent is her right, or put in in the property or whatever part of property belongs to her. So unless if she has just spent on her own will for provision of the family, otherwise the wife is not responsible for for provision of the family. And if she has the idea that, okay, whatever I give is a loan to my husband, and he has to give it back to me, he has to give back. However, when they have a joint account and they have put money inside, both of them, whatever the wife has put in should go back to her.
Any other sister you want to continue on, or any brother? So it means that whatever the wife has put in belongs to her.
Yeah.
And then the wife may not have contributed financially in other ways, but she may have contributed in physically in the house and all. So what about the husband's share? Would she not inherit the half of that or what?
As I said, the wife is not responsible for provision of the family. If she has done it on her own will and discretion, the husband is not responsible to give it back, okay? Unless if she says that, okay, I give, but you have to give me back, all right? That's a caveat there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Tilka hududillah. Hudud gives an idea of very much in terms of legal aspects, or at least boundaries, which are quite defined boundaries. But what you have talked about in terms of hudud is good family life, not ever too much fighting and things like that, which is quite vague. Does anybody actually define these hudud?
Yeah, because it says, فَإِن يَخَافَ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ. If they fear they cannot keep hududullah, they have interpreted like this. For example, the wife has aversion, wouldn't like to be with the husband, and the husband would like to be with the wife, would coerce her, and this is against hududullah, which says that the wife should actually obey and submit, and the husband should not coerce. You see, this is why it comes into these terms of happy family, not having tension in the family. In a sense, yes, hududullah, when we take the legal aspects to its origin, the origin of this legal dispute are these things which happen in the family.
And sorry, the second thing is you said khiftum. I can see why you are suggesting that or saying that this refers to the judges. But obviously the pronoun itself is quite vague. It doesn't actually say who is you. Is there any other suggestion apart from judges? I mean, as a community, I suppose it's difficult to implement it or anybody else, but is there anything to suggest?
Yeah, khiftum also, it means that it is actually addressed to the elders of the family. Or it is some say that it means it becomes so apparent that everyone now knows about this dispute. Everyone fears that they are going to have fights all the time with each other. But as you are not in favor of vagueness, it's very vague, isn't it? So the best thing is that we refer it to the hakim, that if hakim fears that it's not going to the hudud is not being kept, then he could give the divorce.
Thank you. Before we go to the brothers, any sisters? Yeah, can you pass the mic to her? Yeah,
Assalamu alaikum. In our general majlises for years now, I've never heard an explanation about what it means in the Quran that a man is a degree above women. It's never sort of brought up. It's always taken in the family as the man has the right over a woman in lots of aspects. But it's never brought up in a majlis of any kind. The men don't mention it and the women don't mention it. This verse doesn't come up, but everybody knows it.
Because men fear women to mention it. No, because it says darajatun, 1 degree. not darajatun. I mean, in every aspect, certainly. And this is a legal daraja, certainly, not something in terms of creation or things like that. It's a bit awkward to discuss, isn't it? That's why you don't hear. But because now we have tafsir, we have to actually go into details of what it means.
Thank you. Nizar?
Sheikh, in your numerous experiences that you must have had in settling and dealing with cases of intended divorce within the community in London, and I would like Abbas to also come in with his experience as well. I'm just wondering, have you created a standard prenup agreement that you would recommend, taking into consideration everything that is mentioned in the Quran, and at the same time taking into consideration the laws of the land, so that it is a blueprint, if you like, that every Shia couple should sign this before getting married?
It's very difficult, actually, because no matter what they sign, then they may just forget it, ignore it. Emotions would somehow overcome them and would not allow them to think properly. When things come to this tension and leading to divorce, emotions are very high. And that's why all the time Allah says, Fattaqullah, fear God. I don't think we can have a standard sort of blueprint, because every family have their own very, very special case. In Iran, as you know now, if you want to marry, there are 24 conditions set there for men to sign, not for women, of course, for men to sign, to actually stop this transgression of hududullah. That they have to sign that, for example, a woman has the right to divorce herself if certain things happen. If man doesn't provide, what happens? If man goes to prison, what happens? It's all signed. But still we have all these issues in family relations. So maybe one day we come up with something very good. But as I said, when it's written in the Quran and said by God and people ignore it, what about what others would actually suggest?
Issues will always be there, because we have to make a start somewhere, so they get resolved gradually over the time, inshallah. Any sisters? Any sisters before you go? Okay. Can you pass the mic to sister over there?
Regarding this triple talaq, in India some times ago, there was a lot of uproar about it, that this is not allowed for, it's very unfair to the women. So in Allahabad, in India, they have constitutionally defied it, and they say it's against the law to give a talaq 3 times and women is divorced. It's not on. So by law, they have done it in India now.
Well, very good. Because it was done by authorities, by the caliph. It can be revoked by authorities. It's not something done by the Prophet or allowed by the Prophet. So, well, we are not unhappy about that.
Yeah, thanks. I collaborate with her, because this has to be brought into Pakistan as well. Anyway, brother, yes.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We know the Quran came to mankind from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam until al-Qiyamah. Some verses in the Quran, they are very, very decisive, and everybody knows which direction they go. There's loads of verses, as we know. They are not sort of left for people to interpret, for scholars to interpret. Perfect example of that is the talaq 3 times in the Sunni brothers, and that is it. In our belief, no, there should be 2 times and the 3rd time, and there won't be any come back. Why is this picture, if you like, not that clear so that we all can follow? Or is it because the Quran is there from now until Qiyamah, so it's opening for interpretation to move with life as life changes, as humankind moves on from now until eternity?
Well, people have different understandings of the text, it says talaq should be not more than 3 times. Now, the second caliph interpreted it that, okay, you can do it in one session. And others say, no, this is not permissible, this was not something practiced at the time of the Prophet. So people have different understandings, and they come with different ideas, and then different rulings, different fatwa. This has been the case in all religions. I don't think it's something specific to Shia, Sunni, Islam, or things like that.
Thanks. Any sisters? No, Brother Riyaz?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Just a question about the dowry and mahr, if you might call it. Because what's happened in some...
Actually, in Islam, we don't have dowry.
Okay, so it's
dowry
just...
was something which was given by wife to the husband. In
Oh, of course,
isn't it?
of course, yes.
So we call it marriage gift, but better than dowry.
Absolutely. So let's just talk about the mahr in that case. So is there a precedent? Because I remember some cases where the family of the girl didn't trust the family of the bridegroom so much, and for that reason they set the mahr at a very high rate. It could even be, 30 years ago, it could have been £5,000, which today's equivalent is £20,000. So is that a practice that has happened before? Is there a precedent for it?
£20,000 is very modest. Now in Iran they said £1 million or things like that.
So it's a practice that you've seen it throughout history.
Well, the Prophet said, of course, the best women are those who are light in their mahr. Of course, they don't take sort of big mahr for the marriage, things like that. But it has been left to the discretion of the women, how much, and not the family actually. Now, family come advise their daughter about it, but then it has become a custom in certain societies that it is as if it's the right of the family to decide about the mahr and things like that. The Quran says, وَإِنْ أَرَدْتُمُ اسْتِبْدَالَ زَوْجٍ مَكَانَ زَوْجٍ وَآتَيْتُمْ إِحْدَاهُنَّ قِنْطَارًا فَلَا تَأْخُذُوا مِنْهُنَّ شَيْئًا. If you have given one, qintar was this skin of cow, which was somehow peeled as a whole, and then they filled it with gold, how many pounds it would be. So if you have given one of them, one of these big sacks of gold, you cannot take it back. And it means that it's allowed, isn't it? It's allowed. However, it's not good. Actually, historically, it's reported that the second caliph wanted to limit the amount of mahr, and saying that it shouldn't be too much, it shouldn't be extravagant, and a certain limit, and that's all. And one of the women actually in the mosque objected, and she said that you are opposing the verse of the Quran, because the Quran says وَآتَيْتُمْ إِحْدَاهُنَّ قِنْطَارًا فَلَا تَأْخُذُوا مِنْهُنَّ شَيْئًا. How come? And he, of course, recanted.
Any sisters before we go back to the brothers? Any sisters? No? Nizar?
I understand, although I stand to be corrected, that India, Pakistan, and even Iran, there's a culture whereby the women's family has to pay a substantial amount to the groom at the time of marriage.
Not in Iran, unfortunately, no.
It's not, okay, but in India it is. I don't know about Pakistan.
It used to be, but the culture is now dying off.
But that's nothing to do with Islam, yeah? That's just cultural.
It was a law in Britain as well. Dowry was actually, it was to encourage men to marry a woman, for example, a man to marry a woman, that they actually put a state or a big amount of money as a sort of gift to the husband so that they would marry. There is no such a thing in Islam. There's only a gift to women, not, of course, for men, the other way.
Thank you. Any other brothers, sisters? No? Thank you. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad sallallahu